A cold New York morning, that kind of air that bites straight through your jacket, was supposed to be just another day for Lena Carter. 29 years old, bone-tired from a night shift cleaning offices downtown, she stepped into a glossy cafe that smelled like money and power. She had exactly $3 and some change in her pocket, just enough for a small black coffee she saved for Fridays, her one little ritual. That coffee meant she could sit in a plush chair for 15 minutes and pretend life wasn't always about bills stacked on the dresser or worrying whether her kid brother would outgrow his shoes before she could afford another pair. The cafe was buzzing men in tailored suits barking orders into phones, women with perfect nails scrolling through laptops, nobody really seeing anyone else. And then it happened. A man in front of her wearing clothes so torn and beat up, he looked like he'd slept on the subway, shuffled to the counter. He asked for a medium coffee and a muffin. The barista swiped his card once, then again louder, this time declined. She raised her voice like she wanted the whole place to hear it. Heads turned, smirks spread. Someone in line chuckled. The man's shoulders dropped. Lena felt her own cheeks burn. She knew that kind of shame, the kind where people look at you like poverty is a disease. Before she even thought it through, she stepped forward, slid her crumpled bills on the counter, and said softly, "I'll cover it." The barista blinked like she didn't understand English. The man turned eyes sharp despite his ragged appearance and whispered, "I couldn't let you." But Lena cut him off. "It's just coffee. Everyone deserves breakfast." She handed over everything she had, knowing she'd go without her own cup today. The place went quiet. No one else offered to help. Just stares, whispers, judgment. The man took the muffin and coffee like they were treasure. Why, he asked, genuine confusion in his voice. Lena shrugged, trying to walk away before her stomach growled out loud. "Because I know what it's like," she said. She didn't see the black town car parked outside, didn't notice the suited man in the back seat speaking into an earpiece, whispering, "He's maintaining his cover perfectly." She just walked to the bus stop, her stomach empty, but her chest strangely full. What Lena didn't know was that the man she'd just helped wasn't homeless at all. His name was Alexander Hayes, 62 years old, founder and CEO of Hayes Global, one of the most powerful corporations in Manhattan. He had been sneaking out, dressed as a vagrant for weeks, trying to remind himself what real life looked like beyond the penthouse windows. His board thought he'd lost his mind. But in that moment, watching a cleaner who had nothing spend her last dime for a stranger, he realized maybe he was finally finding it. Lena's life kept grinding forward. She worked doubles, held the family together after their parents died, kept her 16-year-old brother Marcus in school. He was brilliant, obsessed with robotics, sketching designs on notebook paper because they couldn't afford a working laptop anymore. She tried to be both sister and parent, hiding her exhaustion behind small jokes and stale cereal breakfasts. And every bill that arrived felt like another reminder of how far behind they were. Then one night on a cleaning shift at a glass and steel skyscraper, she ran into that same man again. Same torn clothes, same hunched posture. Her first thought was security had let him slip in to stay warm. "You could get in trouble," she warned gently. He shrugged, eyes tired. "Story of my life." Something in his voice made her chest ache. "What's your name?" she asked. Will, he lied. "Friends call me Will. Not that I've got many." That night they sat in the break room, her with a bologna sandwich, him with a cup of water. And for the first time in years, Lena found herself talking about the accident that took her parents, about sacrificing college to raise Marcus, about dreams that now felt childish. He listened like no one else ever had. When she confessed she once wanted to be a teacher, he didn't laugh. He said softly, "That's not stupid. That's exactly the kind of dream the world needs." What she didn't see was him texting his assistant in the middle of the night, ordering background checks, scholarships, quiet bill payments. Within a week, Marcus was offered a scholarship into the robotics club he'd begged to join. The power bill got mysteriously credited. Lena wanted to believe in good luck, but in her gut, she knew something didn't add up. One afternoon, Marcus came home with a split lip. He'd fought back after a wealthy classmate mocked his ragged sneakers and insulted Lena. At the principal's office, the other boy's parents demanded Marcus be expelled. Lena tried to stay calm, but her voice shook with anger. That's when Will spoke up, no longer timid, but commanding every word, cutting the air like glass. "Tell me what kind of man teaches his son to mock another child's poverty?" The room froze. Even the principal stared at him differently. It was the first time Lena wondered who exactly was this man. Still, she let him walk Marcus home. They shared pizza laughter, the kind of warmth she hadn't felt in years. But when Will noticed the stack of unpaid bills on the table and offered help, she snapped, "I don't need charity. I need a friend." He nodded, but later in his penthouse office, Alexander Hayes watched her on security cameras and whispered, "Character. I'm testing character." Weeks passed, and Lena's life got more complicated. She was suddenly reassigned to clean Hayes Global headquarters, the most coveted post for cleaners in the city. There, she faced executives who treated her like invisible furniture, or worse, prey. A vice president cornered her, offering money if she'd spy on the CEO's office. She refused. She found envelopes of cash left behind in hallways. She turned them in without hesitation. Each time, Alex sat in his office watching through cameras, both proud and guilty. But the secret couldn't last. Lena began noticing how easily Will moved through security, how his vocabulary slipped into that of an educated man, how executives whispered about their CEO playing homeless. Finally, after she collapsed from exhaustion one night, he carried her to safety. She looked into his eyes and asked, "Who are you really?" He hesitated, and the silence told her everything. She walked away shaking. The truth exploded soon after. Tabloids plastered photos of Lena with a mysterious homeless companion who was suddenly revealed as Alexander Hayes' billionaire CEO. Headlines screamed, "Cleaning lady girlfriend." Reporters camped outside her building. Marcus was bullied, called names too cruel to repeat. Neighbors whispered gold digger. Her phone lit up with offers board members wanting her to testify that Alex was unstable, manipulative, predatory. One even promised her a payout big enough to change their lives forever. And for one sleepless night, she thought about it. About tuition bills, freedom. But when she looked at Marcus, this boy who still believed in kindness, who said, "I don't care if he's rich or poor," "He's still Will to me," she knew her answer. The next morning, she marched straight into the Hayes Global boardroom, Marcus at her side. Cameras followed, executives sneered. Richardson, the vice president who'd set her up, smiled like a shark. "Tell us about Mr. Hayes," he purred. She stood tall, voice trembling, but steady. "I met a man whose card was declined at a coffee shop. People laughed. I paid. He lied about who he was. That hurt. But he also sat with my brother when no one else did, stood up to bullies, told us dignity doesn't cost money. So yes, he deceived me. But he also reminded me what humanity looks like, something some of you in this room seem to have forgotten." The board shifted uncomfortably. Richardson smirked. "Touching but irrelevant." That's when Thomas Alex's assistant rolled in proof emails of Richardson plotting to sell the company out for personal gain. The board gasped. Security dragged him out, and suddenly the balance shifted. Alex, now in his full truth, turned to Lena. "I don't deserve forgiveness, but I want to earn it. Not with money, but with change." And change came. Within months, Hayes Global transformed. Wages rose. Benefits expanded. Cleaning staff were invited to eat in the same cafeteria as executives. For the first time, Lena felt seen. She was promoted not as charity, but because she had vision. Marcus thrived in his internship, his designs gaining attention. And slowly, painfully, trust began to rebuild between her and Alex, not with disguises, but with honesty. A year later, Lena stood on a stage at the Workers' Dignity Gala, looking out at hundreds of employees who were once invisible. She told the story of buying coffee for a stranger. She ended with the words her parents had taught her. Kindness doesn't cost a dime, but it can change everything. The applause was thunderous. That night, Alex walked her back to the same cafe where it all began. He smiled shyly and asked, "So coffee's on me this time?" She laughed. "It better be Billionaire." And for the first time, they sat not as cleaner and CEO, not as liar and victim, but as equals. Now I've got to ask you, what would you have done in that cafe? Would you have laughed with the crowd, stayed silent, or been the one person brave enough to put down your last $3 for a stranger? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your take on kindness, deception, and second chances.